Now, once you go through the trouble of analyzing the CPM schedule and then optimizing it, of course you want to be able to use all that data for production control as well. So let's say that we are moving into operations. We're going to take that signed off schedule by all the subcontractors and put it in everyone's hands and start tracking against that to support our production control exercises. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the controlling options that we have as part of the Vico Office workflow and production controller module specifically, we have several tools available to track the progress of work in the field and to forecast, based on the actual work completed, what the trend of that work would mean for the balance of the schedule. We have a utility called our control chart, which allows us to identify activities by location and status those activities as either a % complete or an amount of quantity installed. It's a color-coded system, so based on the actuals that you input to each one of these blocks, green represents a complete activity by location, blue is in progress and on time, yellow is in progress and behind, and red blocks are bad, which represent activities which were supposed to start and have not in a particular location. We can use that actuals input data in a flow line forecast view, which basically takes the resources to date and installed work to date and calculates a forecasted projection of what the balance of that activity would look like based on the remaining quantities of work in your schedule. This, of course, will have a relationship to the other activities based on their logic, and will identify if weak production on a predecessor activity is impacting the start dates or continuity of the forecasted predecessor activities. This is an example of an actual project where we have implemented production control and been tracking the actuals and using it for forecasting. Whoops. The red dots identify alarms where the production of the predecessor activity is insufficient and is causing an impact to the start date, in this case, of the successor activity. What we would use this information for is to analyze the potential control actions that we may take to return the production of the predecessor activity to the target and to mitigate any potential delays to the successor activities. If we consider that each of the activities is loaded with quantities and labor resources, we can compare the targeted production to the actual production and forecasted production that we're seeing in the field. This is an example of a resource histogram that is comparing in blue the target man hours for an interior phase of a project and showing us the representation of the actuals and forecasted resource requirements for the interiors phase. If you look in the upper right-hand corner, it is projecting a difference of required man hours to install this work of several thousand, which is probably something that is good to know about early and try to mitigate, because not only do those increased man hours result in increased cost for someone, they're also likely going to take longer to complete, which means potential delays to the completion of your project. In addition to a resource histogram, which in the previous slide we were analyzing total number of man hours required, we also can look at a resource graph in production control mode, which compares the planned number of resources, number of men, for example, to the actual and forecasted number of men. What we want to avoid is huge discrepancies before today's date and after today's date, which would indicate that you need to mobilize immediately. What is it, like 35 guys in order to, 45 in order to achieve the targeted dates of your schedule. All of this data, of course, is available for you in a spreadsheet format for analysis. What we're looking to compare really is, the production rate is what we're using to plan the job and using to track the job with. We want to make sure that our production rates are in alignment and are meeting the target. However, we can also look at the consumption rate or productivity rate of the installation, which is a truer performance metric of the work. Basically is the efficiency of installation for the workers that are assigned to a task. And if you are consistently seeing lower than planned production and higher than planned man hours required to install that work, then you need to have a discussion about how to, let's say, man up or increase your resources in order to correct the production forecast and bring it back towards the target so that it doesn't impact your successor activities. All of this data, which was started with the CPM match, refined during the optimization phase, and is then available for you to track against in production control phase, is available for you, and part of our continued service from the scheduling side of things is a production control analysis, which we provide a report for, let's say on a weekly or monthly basis. What we're looking at here is a sample production report that we would provide after we begin tracking the work in the field and inputting that against the targeted optimization plan. This is an example of a control chart that we have statused as of the date of the report. Basically, what you're looking at here from the colored side is green boxes are complete, green is good. Yellow boxes have, those are activities which have started in locations but are running behind schedule. Blue boxes are started and on schedule. Red boxes were supposed to have started and have not yet. If you see the boxes with a little diagonal slash through those represent activities which have been suspended. Now, typically what you want to focus on in a production report is any activity which is not tracking to plan, which in this case are certainly the suspended activities. We need to make sure that we can resolve whatever issue has suspended the work for that activity in those locations. And any of the yellow boxes and red boxes which are indicating late or not started work according to the plan. In this case, we have a group of yellow boxes representing late work for the frame walls activity, which is delaying the start of the drywall in those locations represented by these red boxes. So this gives us a kind of a visual method for understanding the status of each activity in each location and targeting activities and locations for focus to resolve whatever is delaying or suspending the activities there. We can look at that in the flow line view as a forecast, which is trending pretty late for a couple of activities, as you can see in this view. We've got some HVAC and some plumbing activities which are trending a little late based on the actuals that we've recorded to date. Now, those are not forecasting a delay right now, or sorry, let me restate that. They are not currently in delay, but they are forecasting a potential delay if the current production rate continues as has been for the actuals that have been input. This gives us kind of an early warning system for identifying the potential of us to not meet our target production rate and to take corrective measures to pull that back in before we get into a situation of unrecoverable delays. All of that information, again, is available in very detailed format if you like it. We can provide a comparison, or we do provide a comparison of the targeted production and consumption rates, as well as the targeted percent complete start and end dates with what has actually occurred in the field. So we can identify any deficiencies in production or discrepancies in percent complete start dates between the two, and use that as a method to target control actions to bring the production back up to the plan. We then can analyze each subcontractor or phase individually to try and identify where we may be seeing the cause of the forecast and the trends in the completion report data or the forecasted flow line view. These resource histogram comparisons will identify any differences between the planned and forecasted total man-hours required, as well as the planned and forecasted durations of the activities. And then ultimately we can provide an executive analysis that allows you a filtered view of the critical tasks of the job, which show you where you need to focus your efforts to work with the individual subcontractors to try to alleviate whatever kind of constraints or to mitigate whatever kind of production deficiencies we're seeing for those jobs. And this is kind of the cap to the process. By starting with a review of the CPM analysis, we're able to identify any areas that we perceive risk in the schedule, mitigate those by optimizing, and optimizing not just on our own, but with the project team and with the subcontractors, and getting buy-in to that, and then flipping that over to production control so that we can actually monitor the work and track against the plan to make sure that we are achieving that optimized workflow that we designed.